influencers and content creators in Russia are pretty much as cooked as my hairline. As a Russian who left Russia, I've been getting a lot of questions asking me why I did it, and the answer is actually pretty simple. I do not intend to spend half of my life in a gulag.
This is the Gulag.
If you know a thing or two about modern Russia, you might know that free speech in Russia is kinda non-existent right now. If you want to criticize the government or the war in Ukraine as a public person on any level, you are pretty much guaranteed to end up in prison. Not that long ago on my channel, I already talked about how Twitch streamers are pretty much cooked in Russia. I talked about the case of Anna Bazhutova. She was a Russian streamer who ended up being sent to prison for over 5 years for discussing the events in Bucha on her live stream. And by the way, the reason why I'm actually describing this as some kind of event and being vague is also because I don't want to be considered a criminal in Russia. But long story short, yes, if you're a streamer or a content creator, a YouTuber, an influencer in Russia, you basically have to walk a minefield and consider an insane amount of laws and restrictions if you do not want to go to prison. And even though a lot of influencers in Russia have pretty much switched to being full easy so that the government doesn't touch them, Russia is still introducing insane restrictions and new laws for YouTubers, influencers, and content creators that are basically at this point almost unbearable. Russia wants to strictly monitor every single influencer, have them register in a special list, and Russia is actually trying to pass a new law so that they can legally punish regular Russian citizens for sharing or spreading content from influencers that have not been approved by the government. Basically, long story short, Russian influencers are completely cooked. But before we get to all of that legal nonsense, here's just a simple case that happened recently in Russia. A streamer from St. Petersburg has been given 2 criminal cases after one livestream. Some of you guys might have already seen this, but if you haven't, you're probably thinking, well, the guy surely did something that warranted this crazy and harsh response. Let's check it out.
Да нахуй этот флаг нужен, блядь, 1000, конечно, уберу. Потом вечером дырку во рту сделаешь и ставишь игрушку с ртом и пиздой. Ну да. Жести. 1000! Да нахуй этот флаг!
Хлеб, любимая
Пошел нахуй отсюда, блядь!
За день съедает полбулки.
So yes, this is the terrible crime that this guy has committed on his live stream. Essentially, this is some guy called Stepan Skofin, or Skofi, not a very big, like, very popular streamer in Russia or anything. But yes, essentially what happened here is that during his live stream, this guy, Stepan, got a donation for the sum of 1,000 rubles, okay, asking him to take down the flag of Russia in his background, which he had on his wall. And so he got the donation and ripped off the flag off his wall, saying screw this flag or whatever. And pretty much right the next day, on another live stream, this is what happens. Yes, he got arrested, essentially swatted by Russian police right on his live stream when he was live streaming outside and like, apparently he was doing hopscotch for donations or something. And I know a lot of you Russia simps are probably gonna say, Roman, once again, you're talking about Russia bad, Russia this restrictive country with no free speech. Alright, let's see what kind of charges this guy got. So like I already mentioned, he got 2 criminal cases on him after this live stream. The article here says that essentially during the live stream, he said, what the hell do I need this flag for? And also he decided to not stop the stream when one of his fans advised him to. And his response was, who's gonna come for me? I don't give a single shit. So essentially right after he did it, his viewers were immediately warning him and saying that he's gonna go to prison, and he didn't believe them. However, the video spread on the internet very quickly and ended up on the line of sight of the Russian Center to Fight Extremism, basically. And the next day, the man was arrested while he was live streaming at like outside doing hopscotch, and the police searched the streamer's house and seized the flag, his video equipment, and his computer. The Russian police said that the actions of the suspects violated the order of society and were also aimed at debasement of a governmental symbol and also to insult the patriotic feelings of Russian citizens. According to the investigation, the suspect acted having made a premeditated agreement with an unknown person. And essentially currently they started 2 criminal cases against him. The first one is hooliganism, which could either lead to a fine or an imprisonment of up to 7 years. And also he got the criminal case of desecrating a governmental symbol, which could lead to either community hours or imprisonment for up to 1 year. Блять, это такая хуйня. So yes, guys, this is precisely why I left Russia as a content creator, okay? I don't want this type of shit to happen to me. And if we really think about the free speech in Russia at this point, we've kinda, I guess, reached the point of North Korea. You all probably remember the story of Otto Warmbier, an American student who went to North Korea and tried to steal a flag of North Korea, and he essentially got imprisoned in North Korea, also for like desecrating and disrespecting a governmental symbol of the great country of North Korea. I'm not the type of person to say that Russia is literally North Korea or anything, but when we look at this situation, I don't really see how it's much different, quite honestly. Except that Russia is obviously jailing its own citizen in this case, потому что мы своих не бросаем. But what can I say? Another very proportionate response from the Russian police. Again, guys, this is the crime right here.
Пошел нахуй отсюда, блядь.
За день съедает полбуки.
Like 20 people saw this on a live stream. This is the crime, and this is the punishment. This is the appropriate response. What can I say, guys? Great job, Russian police. Another extremist and terrorist has been apprehended. If only the Russian police was this good when, you know, there's actual terrorist attacks going on and they take like hours and hours to arrive and the terrorists just kill everybody, like the Crocus City Hall. When there's an actual threat of violence and when Russian people are in danger, the police are sleeping. But when a teenager ripped a flag off of his own wall for 20 viewers on a live stream, now that right there is the priority task for Russian police to solve. Okay then. And also I'd say by far the funniest thing about this whole thing for me is that, from a legal standpoint, I would like to claim that the guy didn't even break the law. Because what he has on his wall right here, this is not the flag of Russia, dudes. If you want to know what the official flag of Russia looks like, this is it right here, okay? This is the official symbol of the Russian Federation. But this right here, white, blue, and red with like a Russian coat of arms, photoshopped poorly, and picture of Vladimir Putin also photoshopped poorly, non-symmetrical, no nothing. But I'm sorry, but this is not a flag of Russia. This is just a fucking like, it's just a piece of cloth. And yet, once again, the crime this guy's gonna go to prison now for is desecrating the official symbols of Russia, which this is clearly not. So either Russia doesn't care about its own governmental symbols, or they just want to jail as much people as possible, which is the truth, by the way. And I'd say honestly, if this guy right now wants to be actually smart, then he needs to try to prove in court that what he actually ripped off his wall is not a flag of Russia, because it's not. But you know, good luck proving that in Russian court, and also I guess the reason why they gave him 2 felonies right away, not just 1, is just so that in case if he actually does manage to prove in court that this is not the Russian flag, they can just jail him for the other felony of hooliganism. So, I love my country, guys. Great country. Great country. So yeah, once again, when people ask me why I left Russia as a YouTuber and content creator, there it is, guys. This is it. However, the truth is that this is just the tip of the iceberg for the average Russian content creator. Because right now, Russia is introducing so much nonsensical forms of control and new laws for YouTubers and content creators that I don't even know how anybody is gonna get anything done. First of all, Russia's internet regulator and censorship organ, Roskomnadzor, last year introduced a new law according to which every single influencer in Russia that has over 10,000 subscribers is now forced to register himself in a special registry of influencers. Basically, as an influencer, you have to message this governmental organ with information of your online page. Then you essentially gotta dox yourself, you gotta let them know your name, you gotta let them know your phone number, your address and everything. You also have to tell them the personal information of like your administrators, so for example like mods in your Twitch chat, I guess. And also you gotta let them know your IP address. So basically, dox yourself so that it's gonna be easier for them to arrest you later. And Russian influencers, content creators, they're doing this right now on their own volition. For example, here's like a large channel in Russia, they have 7 million followers. And if I go here in their description, right, they have their channel description, but then at the end they have our registration in the registry of the Roskomnadzor, and they have a link here, and this is pretty much what opens up. Here it states this resource has been added to the registry of Roskomnadzor, Click-Clack, Social Network, YouTube, and so on and so on. And it also gives you a green light here, by the way, and it states here that the owner of this resource, of this media, can ask for donations for their work, and also can post advertisements. And other channels and other users are allowed to do reposts of this channel, essentially. Now, what this means right here here is actually that Russia is currently creating essentially different castes inside the influencer sphere of Russia. According to this new law, actually, if a content creator or an influencer is not registered with Roskomnadzor right here, or if he's like a foreign agent and so on, then actually, according to the Russian law, this YouTuber, this person is forbidden from doing advertisements and asking for donations or help from his subscribers. Because according to the Russian law now, if you did not register in this registry of the Russian government, and if you're doing advertisements and you're collecting money from your fans, you're actually breaking the law, because it's only allowed for people who are approved by the governments, essentially, for being, you know, Z. Or not talking about politics, right? And they also state that other channels and users can share, you know, this channel also for a reason, because once again, right now, according to the law, Russian citizens are actually forbidden from sharing and spreading any information or any content created by like foreign agents and essentially enemies of the state. If you spread information created by a foreign agent, then you yourself are risking becoming a foreign agent. And not only that, guys, but Russia is actually planning to introduce another fine for viewers, where essentially now Russian citizens, regular people, are gonna be punished with fines for spreading or sharing content made by people who are not registered in this registry of the Russian government. So basically, like, this is real. They literally wanna punish regular people for spreading information from, like, the undesirables enemies of the governments. Again, guys, incredible, a country with free speech and stuff. And obviously officials here say that this is all down to essentially combat fake news and fake accounts pretending to be like mass media and so on. But the truth is that obviously they just don't want anybody to be able to spread or share or post any information coming from the undesirable cast of Russian influences. The Soviet Union would be proud, is all I can say. Russia also recently introduced an additional tax for content creators in Russia. Now, if you do any sort of sponsorships or advertising, you're gonna have to send an additional 3%, essentially of tax, from that money earned from the sponsorship to the Russian budget. Oh, and also one thing I forgot to mention about the registry is that, apart from just getting your own page, every Russian influencer also gets a number. I don't want to make the joke, guys, okay? I don't want to. But yeah, some YouTubers just put it as a link, but others, for example, like this channel, for example, about English, they just have it here featured as a number, because once again, every content creator gets his own number. Many more Russian influencers are also doing this, so like, again, guys. Yes, we all know what country gave people numbers also at a certain point in history not that long ago. So, I guess they're doing this so that it's gonna be easy for Russia later to put all of these, you know, YouTubers into camps and gulags. Because just a few months ago, Russia passed yet another restrictive law, this time banning advertisements on Instagram. I don't know if all of you guys are aware of this, but Instagram and Meta in Russia, or Facebook basically, are currently considered as extremist and terrorist organizations. Yes, seriously? Essentially what happened is that Facebook changed its rules to like allow hate speech toward Russian soldiers or something like that, and Russia's reaction was to basically ban Instagram and Facebook and consider them as extremist organizations. And despite that fact, Russians still use Instagram en masse. Instagram is extremely popular in Russia, right? People are still using it for personal use, they still conduct business on it. Russian influencers still post there, even some Russian politicians still use Instagram publicly. Even though it's a terrorist and extremist website, yes guys, Russian doublethink is incredible, don't even think about it. But now Russia decided to make even more people's lives even harder. And essentially Vladimir Putin signed the law according to which, if you're a Russian citizen, you are no longer allowed to advertise anything on Instagram or Facebook. There's different levels of fines for different kinds of people, for like physical persons, people in a position of power, and for business owners, right? But basically the point of this law is that it pretty much restricts any commerce on Instagram for Russians. It's not that they're just banning stuff for influencers actually, so that Russian influencers can no longer have like advertisements and sponsorships on Instagram and Facebook. They actually also banned self-advertisements. Which technically means that if you're like a business owner in Russia, and if you run an Instagram page advertising your business, you know, whatever it is, it could be like a food chain or restaurant, fashion brands, or it could be just your small business where you bake cakes or something, right? Now, advertising your own company and advertising yourself and asking people to like use your services or whatever and advertising your services as a Russian on Instagram is pretty much illegal. And business owners get the biggest fines possible. So what they did is that they took away the ability for people to advertise themselves on the biggest platform used by all Russians, despite the fact that it's banned in Russia. And yeah, now in Russia, if you want to simply advertise your little business where you know, bake cakes, once again, you're literally risking a fine of up to like $5,000, which for a lot of Russians is absolutely insane. So, again, guys, great country. I mean, the level to which, like, YouTubers and influencers are cooked in Russia is unfathomable, truly. And yet, you know, as we can see, Russian influencers, Russian YouTubers, they still continue to do it. They still continue being slaves of the government. So, you know, cool. We're heading straight to a new level of dystopia, where content creators and every opinion on the internet is gonna have to be approved by the government, and if you dare to share it, you're gonna go to fucking prison. So long story short, guys, this right here is precisely why I myself, as a content creator and as somebody who does stuff online, decided to leave Russia. I'm not trying to live in a mental prison of self-censorship, okay? And I don't want to live every single day thinking that I'm literally living in a minefield where one wrong step could lead me to ending up in a gulag. So, yeah guys, I guess that's gonna be pretty much it for today's video though. Let me know what you think about these crazy new rules for YouTubers and stuff in Russia. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then please make sure to slap the like button on it. And also, if you guys would like to support me additionally, and that is financially, then please go over to the link down in the description, buy me a coffee, or become a YouTube channel member. It's basically the best way to support me. And yeah, that's it for today's video, guys, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Peace.